Hello everyone. In this slide, I want to talk with you about the risk communication as the core component of risk governance, according to the chapter 6 of the book of Mr. Ren Ortvin, so-called risk governance. According to the IRGC framework for risk governance, um, communication risk communication is a core component of the risk governance. Effective communication has to be at the core of any successful activity to assess and manage risks. Risk communication should be two-way communication between risk managers, risk assessors, and the public. Risk is well communicated when it helps stakeholders make informed decisions and build mutual trust. It is essential throughout the risk handling cycle, from pre-estimation, screening, into the final steps as the risk management. Risk communication is a combination of two aspects, namely internal communication and external communication. Internal communication refers to a situation where risk assessors and managers develop a common understanding of their task, responsibility, and the types of involvements. It enables risk assessors and managers to appraise the potential impact and all possible outcomes based on the available information. Meanwhile, external communication enhances stakeholders' awareness of the negative impact of the risk and their recognition about their roles in the risk governance and initiation of different behaviors. As a matter of fact, external communication is the proper transmission of risk information to the outside world, to the public. Risk communication has four main functions. The first is education and enlightenment. It means that the risk managers and the risk players should inform the audience and the public about the risk and how to handle this risk. Another function is risk training and change in behavior. It is important to know that one of the main objectives of the risk communication is to create behavior change among people in order to enable them to cope with risk and also potential disasters. The third function is creation of confidence in the institutions who are responsible for the assessment and management of risk. And it is important to know that in these days people value the incredibility of these institutions more than ever. Trust cannot be produced or generated only by performance. And the final function is involvement in risk-related decision and conflict resolution. All of these functions require specific types or form of risk communication. The normal and the usual forms of risk communication is documentation, information, two-way communication, and mutual decision making and involvements. Effective risk communication mostly implement all of these forms in a in with each other. I mean simultaneously, in order to meet the various needs of diverse publics. Furthermore, these forms can be linked to the four functions. For example, information and dialogue are the most appropriate means of achieving enlightenment. Documentation and dialogue are mainly used for building up the trust. Risk communication needs some instruments. The main instrument of risk communication is brochures, written leaflets, informational videos, internet presentation, public lectures and discussions, exhibition, educational fairs, participation in science centers, and visit to schools. One of the main models of communication, which is recommended by risk managers, consists of three main parts: source, transmitter, and final receiver. According to this model, the message is generated by the source and will be sent to transmitter. The transmitter decodes and recodes the message to get it to the final receiver. Although this model seems to be a one-way model, if the receiver and the source roles get two-way and feedback flows, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for analyzing the process of risk communication. Sources are risk scientists, scientific institutes, public agencies, interest groups, and so on. The transmitters are the mass media, stakeholders, opinion leaders, and so on. If we want to talk about effective risk communication, it is important to know some topics about risk perception, trust, and main challenges. In terms of risk communication, the patterns of risk perception that shape the receiver understanding of the message add additional uncertainty and ambiguity to the final effect that a message may have. As a consequence, people in these days rely more than ever on the credibility and sincerity of those from whom they receive information about risk. Therefore, trust has been a major key for risk responses. The presence or absence of trust in control institutions is able to compensate for even a negative risk perceptions, and distrust may lead people to oppose risks. Therefore, for having an effective risk communication, better understanding of the meaning and implications of the term of trust would be really important among the risk managers. It is really important to know that for making trust, 2 points should be considered. One is that the logic and rationale of risk assessment should be included in the message. At the same time, the process of risk decision making in risk management, and also the previous performance of the institutions of risk management is really important to be included in the core message too. If we want to talk about the risk management, risk communication challenges, it's needed to consider these points. The concept of probability and the actual effects and impacts should be explained in the message. The difference between risk and hazard should be explained too. The public should know how to cope with different timescales such as long-term effects. It is important to provide an understanding of synergic effect with other lifestyle factors. It is important to note that the improvement of credibility of the agencies and institutions that provide information to the public is really important. And also, it is important to note that the risk managers and the risk communicators should know that they are facing with diverse people with different culture, and it is notable to cope with intercultural differences through the risk communication. As a final comment, it is the risk communication evaluation. All the risk communication process need to evaluate at the end in order to be able to find out if we have accomplished the goals and proper achievements. There are some methods for risk communication evaluation. For example, pre-test the material or the discourse procedure, devise experimental designs, conduct surveys or polls, make use of internet chat rooms, provide supervision and training. But there is a systematic risk evaluation method which should be delegated to professionals. They know how to devise a questionnaire, how to conduct focus groups, and how to deal with inevitable biases in people's responses.